What was all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He built five, seven, or eight figures business and two successful exits, and of course, an author too, no other than Mr. Kasim Aslam.
Thanks for having me, Daniel. Appreciate you.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Kasim, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, I built the number one ranked Google Ads agency in the world. That's probably my biggest claim to fame. I've moved on to just building professional services businesses, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. But in the meantime, I've started a staffing agency that helps people in Latin America find executive assistant roles with overwhelmed entrepreneurs in the states.
Awesome. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today, let's talk about your new book, upcoming book, Hire. Why do most entrepreneurs struggle to delegate even when they know it's essential? What's the critical mindset shift your book address?
I think the critical prerequisite to effective delegation is having somebody effective to delegate to. So very often what I see is entrepreneurs aren't necessarily bad at delegation, they're just delegating to the wrong people. So the first thing that people need to do is really focus on hiring top talent. You can't delegate to just anybody. You need to delegate to somebody that can get the job done. And as entrepreneurs, we're taught to hire people like they're commodities, and they're not. People are miracles, but you have to look for miracles in order to get. You're going to find what you look for. So you have to look for miracles in order to get miracles.
Definitely. Higher positions, delegations as freedom, not surrender. How does redefining this transform as a leader's approach?
I think that leaders need to trust people to the degree that allows their people to lead. So a good leader will relinquish control, and we need to redefine what leadership means. Leadership doesn't mean that you're driving, it doesn't mean that you're dictating, it doesn't mean that you get to make all the decisions. I think the most effective leaders that I've ever seen are the ones that work and cultivate other leaders.
Very well said. Mr. Kazam, beautifully articulated. What's the biggest myth about letting go that holds business owners back?
I think people think that they're the best at what they do, and if that's true, then I think you're in a lot of trouble. I would anticipate every single role in every business that's ever been started or finished uh, is probably, as you get down to the minutia, you're always going to be able to find somebody that's better and more adept than you. And when you can let go of a task with the understanding that the person that you're delegating the task to is actually going to accomplish something better than you'd be able to accomplish, uh, that productive endeavor is what allows people to level up in a way that most entrepreneurs never experience.
Let's talk about this strategic delegation framework. What's your step by step method for identifying what to delegate first?
I call it the black box of delegation. So if you want to know what to delegate first, look at what's stopping you from doing the thing that's most important to you. Um, and very often those are the things that are on your to-do list that you just can't get to. And what I tell people is delegate projects, not tasks. So delegate something in its entirety. Don't delegate little micro. If you're not delegating projects, if you're delegating tasks, you're not really delegating. You're micromanaging. And so, if you want to prioritize your delegation, prioritize the project that you need to get off of your plate in order to move towards the project that you really want to do yourself.
How do I help? Oh, yes. How do help leaders distinguish between I should delegate this or I must delegate this to grow?
I think the distinction between what you should delegate is it's based off of what your unique value proposition as a person. So I would divide all productive endeavors into four columns. Column number one is grunt work. So this is something that a robot could probably do. Column number two is, let's call it skilled labor. This is something that somebody needs training to do, but just about anybody can be trained to do. Column number three is specialized labor. This is something that you actually need somebody who's pretty smart to be able to do. And column number four is what I call neo. It's so unique that you're the only person in the world that can do it. This is Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey and Madonna. It's people who have found their voice. I believe you should delegate everything in the first three columns. So unless it's a task or a project that only you can do, you're Michelangelo and it's the Sistine Chapel. If that's not the case, find somebody else to do it, because you should be focusing on the thing that you're uniquely qualified to do.
You're Isaac Newton who discovered gravity.
Yeah, there you go.
How do you help leaders distinguish between the hired people that's not qualified for the company?
We use a funnel. So people hire the wrong way. They hire based off of interviews and resumes, which is interesting because interviews and resumes tell you nothing until you've worked with somebody. We use a hiring funnel. That's what I wrote about in my book. I actually give away the entire funnel. I give away all the templates, everything that somebody would need to use. So they can have that for free if they go to thehirebook.com. There's no paywall, there's no ascension. I just really want to help people hire top talent. The way to do that is pay more than anybody's willing to pay, let people work from home, let them work on a semi flexible schedule, and give them meaningful work. Those are the needle movers for employees. Winners want to win, so you have to pay more. Winners also don't want you to screenshot their desktop or make them check in and out and ask to go to the bathroom. Give people something that will make them feel like they're contributing in a meaningful way. If you do, you'll be overwhelmed with applicants, and that's the funnel. So you have your hiring funnel. More applicants than you'll ever need will come in through the top, and then make the application process hard. Make people jump through hoops in order to apply. Make them do trial projects and walk through specific systems that would show you who they are, how they work, how well they pay attention to detail. And when people get to the bottom of a process like that, anybody who comes out the other end is a peak performer. They're top talent.
Mr. Gassam, before we continue talking about your upcoming book, Hired, can you tell us about also your book, You versus Google?
Yeah, it's not mine anymore. I sold, so I built Solutions 8. We sold it in October of 2022. When we sold it, we actually sold the IP to that book. So it's owned by the organization that bought us. At the time, it was, I think, probably the most comprehensive book on Google Ads ever written. Um, it was really Patience Hurlbert Lawton, whose name you see there, and John Moran that wrote it. And then I came through and added some context and some editing. So that one's not one I can claim authorship of outside of being one of the people in the room when it was written.
How about the Book of Threads?
That one was 100% me. I wrote one thread a day every single day for a year, and then I published it. And it's extraordinarily thick, actually. If you look at the book, it's not a short book. It's not a short read. I also don't know that I'd recommend it to everybody. It has no core thesis. It's just a collection of essays. And I wrote them because I wanted to read them. I heard a quote from Jordan Peterson that said that if you want to learn to think, learn to write. So I really had no expectation to publish a book. I just started writing an essay and posting it to Facebook. And one of the comments I got most often was, "You should really pull all these together and publish them as a book." So I did. It's 600 pages,
Wow.
so I
Congratulations.
probably went overboard there a little bit.
Definitely. How about the seven critical principles of effective digital marketing?
First book I ever wrote. Um, and I wrote the book because I wanted to be an author. I didn't really write the book because I had something to say, which is probably not the best, probably not the best approach. So I did my best, and I don't know that I'd recommend that anybody read that one. I think that was more me working towards something than anything else.
Well, looking forward for more and more and more empowering books, Mr. Kazam. And how do you avoid overhiring too early or underhiring at the scale?
I think that your business is going to teach you what you need and when you need it. Um, I like to hire with my business growth. Most of the businesses that are scaling are doing so at a pace that feels uncomfortable. So, with entrepreneurs, what I would tell you is it's okay. It's okay to build the plane as you fly it. That's actually maybe preferable because when you try to have everything perfect before you go anywhere, then you're going to make a lot of mistakes and it's not going to be vetted. Um, but you have to be careful. You can't pay with people's lives. You know, if you hire somebody, you need to make sure that you have work for them. And um, I'd be very cautious about, you know, making promises you can't keep.
How do you build trust rapidly with the new hires handling sensitive responsibilities?
I think people need constructive criticism early and often. I actually think trust is built through criticism. Um, and you don't want to be overly critical and you don't want to be needlessly critical either. But if somebody does something and you have feedback, give it to them. Give them honest feedback directly, but with a heart that shows them that it's okay to make mistakes and they're not going to be punished for it.
Certainly. And what systems ensure delegated work stays aligned with vision without micromanaging?
I like the black box of delegation. So, what that would mean is you give somebody a desired end result, you give them all the resources available to them to achieve that result. That's the output, is the desired end result. The input are the resources, and everything that happens in between is none of your business. It's like a black box. You don't even look in it.
Mr. Kazam, how do you coach leader to give a feedback that empowers, not undermines?
I think people need to be direct. They need to be honest. They need to be fast. They need to be fair, and then they need to have a very, very, very short memory. If you really are going to allow people to grow, I think we have to not hold their prior performance against them until or unless it's a pattern. So if somebody makes the same mistake over and over again, then they're just not a right fit for the role, and we need to get rid of them. But if they're making different mistakes, each new mistake shouldn't be added to the last because that's not a pattern. That's growth, and we shouldn't penalize growth.
Definitely. And Mr. Kazam, as a co founder and entrepreneur, as well as an author, what are your short term and long term goals?
I want to make $100 million. I want to help 10,000 people find meaningful work. I want to change the world in a meaningful way. And I just kind of want to see what happens next.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Kazim, and looking forward for more success. What will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
I think that we over index towards education, which is a funny thing to say. I think education is obviously wildly important, but it's not enough. People feel like, oh, I read the book, I did the job, I'm done. And I think it needs to be the beginning of the story, not the end. Once you've read the book, now it's time to take action. And so for every hour spent learning, spend an hour doing.
And what systems, and thank you for your advice. And what systems ensure delegate work stays aligned with vision without hassle?
How do we make sure work stays aligned with the vision of the overarching organization? Is that the question I heard?
Yes.
I think it's really important that people know what your values are. It's important that you defined the desired end result. And to be honest with you, I actually don't think it's your job as the employer to keep the work aligned with the vision. I think as long as the end result is aligned with the vision and the work doesn't compromise your values, then how people do the work is irrelevant. I see entrepreneurs all the time, especially now that I own a staffing agency. They start to critique the how, especially when it comes to time. I had a friend say about an employee that was doing a great job and that he actually really liked. He goes, I really like what they're doing, but I don't think I'm getting 8 hours out of them. And I thought it was such a funny statement because He had struggled to fill this role, had a bunch of people in the role in the past that were working really hard and just couldn't get the job done. He finally found somebody that he liked, was getting the job done, was getting it done better than he expected. But now he started focusing on the fact that maybe this person was being too efficient and wasn't working the full 8 hours because employers want an 8 hour day. And in my mind, I'm like, who cares? They're doing the job. They're doing what you want them to do. They're doing what you paid them to do. Who cares how long it takes them or how they do it or, so I wouldn't worry too much about methods. I'd worry about output. And then the output, of course, needs to match the vision, but the vision should be clearly defined on the front end. And so as long as all of us are really clear on what the vision is, then, hopefully we can marshal in the same direction.
Definitely. Output. Output, people. Lazy is the key to success. And thank you for sharing that information, Mr. Kazim. How does high redefine freedom for entrepreneurs beyond just time?
Beyond time, I think it's the ability to stop worrying. Uh, what I tell new members of my staff is if I give you 10 things to do and you do nine of them perfectly, but you forget one on a consistent basis, the issue is it's not as though you're going to tell me which one you're going to forget. So I have to worry about all 10. And if I have to worry about all 10, I might as well do it myself. You've effectively nullified your value. So if you find somebody who is a 10 out of 10 person, you give them 10 things and they do 10 things. What's nice about that is you're not just freeing your time, you're freeing your headspace and you no longer have to worry.
And Mr. Kazim, what measurable outcome like revenue jump or reduce stress reader achieve in 90 days?
I think that the ability to free your time, if you hire the right person, the expectation for a founder who's never had an assistant should be something like 20 to 40 hours a week freed up in a 90-day span.
Interesting. So, what's the most dangerous delegation mistake leaders make repeatedly?
I think it's the inability to inspect what you expect. So very often leaders just want to throw their garbage onto somebody else's table and then not have to worry about it any longer. Um, that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see. And another mistake that's maybe equally dangerous is the belief in the value of your intervention. People thinking that them participating somehow improves the work product when generally speaking employees do way 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 better if you get out of their way.
Mr. Kazim, how do you respond to, but it's faster if I do it myself?
That's true. I've had this conversation with a client. A client hired one of our EAs and was a little upset. And when we got to the heart of it, he said, "Look, it took her, 2 hours to do a job that takes me 30 minutes." And I started to laugh at him, and I said, "Okay, what's your billable?" And I don't remember what he said, but it was probably something like $200 or $300 an hour. And I'm like, "So it takes you." If you can do this in 30 minutes and you bill it $300 an hour, that cost is $150. And he said, yes. And I'm like, well, if you take her billable, and you multiply it by the 2 hours, you're saving a massive amount of money. And so this is a very adequate trade.
Well, Mr. Kazim, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and of course my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in third season, Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. Mr. Kazim, can you please complete this? If you don't master the art of hiring and delegation, you'll forever be stuck.
I think that's complete.
Totally complete. Are you sure?
Yeah. Or I mean, if you wanted to keep the sentence going, you could say you'll be forever be stuck where you are.
Definitely. Mr. Kazim Aslam, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Hoping for more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or wherever your projects that you're doing right now?
Happy to. I think that if you're interested in the book, you can have it for free. Just go to thehigherbook.com.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Kazim Aslam. Empowering people all over the world is something we need to support. So, Mr. Kazim, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
More to come, people. See you soon.